To the 106th annual meeting of the Littleton Hospital Association. First, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and then I'd like a roll call of the trustees. If you just stand and state your name, and we can start right with Bill. And
sure. Sorry about my voice. I'm a little sick, but I'm Bill Bedore. I'm vice chairman. And John, sorry about my voice. That's as good as it gets. Actually, that's better as it gets usually.
I'm Everett Aldrich. I'm president of the authority. I'm Mel Brooks. I'm secretary.
Wayne Real, just a member.
Kevin Silver, president of medical staff.
Brad's a member.
George Brewer, member.
Roger Jennings, member. Jim Hamlin, member.
We've got a disappearing member.
And Steve Trubaugh,
And
I'm Gil Vickery. I'm following Dr. Walcott.
and I'm Ward West, ex officio member.
there you go. And Dr. Duffy is otherwise entertained this evening, along with Dr. We haven't seen Dr. Rankin. He's okay. All right, Mr. Brooks, can I get you to come up and deal with the minutes?
Tonight we're going to vote on several issues, but first let me say this. The bylaws of the association for decades has set forth the parameters that allow people to vote, and there are several parameters. One is if you are 18 years old and you have made a financial contribution to the hospital or the charitable foundation in fiscal year 2020, you can vote. The other is if your town has appropriated funds for the hospital, you are also eligible to vote. Those towns are Bath, Bethlehem, Carroll, Lyman, Jefferson, and Franconia. I'll do it again. Bath, Bethlehem, Carroll, Franconia, Jefferson, and Lyman. Got them? Okay. So if you're in either one of those categories, you can vote. So, if you've had time to read the minutes, I will entertain a motion to make corrections or additions to the minutes. Any corrections or additions to the minutes of January 24th, 2012?
I move we accept as written.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
All right, I have the report from the nominating committee. Currently, there are 13 elected members of the board. The bylaws call for them to be 11 or between 11 and 17. Going off the board this year, as Dr. Walcott alerted to earlier, is Dr. Walcott, Dr. Duffy, and Mr. Gil Vickery, after 9 full years of service to the community. The nominating committee nominates the following individuals for election to the board: Kim Butler, Gail Tomlinson, Gary Meader, and Dr. David Nelson. Can I get a motion to...
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. I would like to, on the behalf of the Board of Trustees, Littleton Hospital Association, and the entire LRH community, thank Drs. Duffy, Walcott, and Mr. Vickery for their service. It's a long... And Mr. Wester, chairs, is that on tonight's agenda? Okay, all right. Good. Next report is the Governance Committee, which I also am reporting on. If you missed them, there were copies of the changes to the bylaws and the Articles of Agreement in the back of the room. We're going to do something a little unusual this year. We're bringing forward changes to both our Articles of Agreement and the bylaws. As far as I can tell, the Articles of Agreement haven't been changed since Littleton Hospital Association was founded. Our attorney said, he referred to the Articles of Agreement as historic. It's our intent to bring our governing documents into the 21st century, and the changes to the Articles of Agreement really relate to adding clauses that reference tax code sections and other things that any set of articles, any corporate articles would reference today, but in 1906 didn't seem appropriate. So effectively, there's no real changes to the Articles of Agreement. The articles, the bylaws. There's two major changes to the bylaws. The first is membership. The current membership of the association is, as Mr. Brooks just pointed out, people who have made a contribution this year or people who live in towns who have. The change in the bylaws will change that to read, the membership will be the Board of Trustees of Littleton Regional Hospital. This will put us in line with current recommended practice for organizations such as this, and will also make our bylaws describe what has been the reality for quite a long time. The second substantive change to the bylaws is the elimination of most of the details that relate to board committees. Currently, the bylaws have 7 pages that describe meeting schedules, membership, and duties of 8 different committees. We've removed most of this from the bylaws. The new bylaws state, to assist the board in the fulfillment of its duties, the trustees may establish 1 or more committees, the purpose, duties, scope of authority of which will be set forth in the charter of each committee. Basically, the charters will not be part of they'll describe the same things that are currently in the bylaws, but they will be a document that can be changed by the Board of Trustees with a 50% vote rather than waiting for the annual meeting. It will allow us a great deal more flexibility, both in what committees we think we need and what we think they ought to do. We currently think we're going to have 6 committees, 5 of which are effectively the same as what we have now: executive, governance, professional relations, quality, finance. We intend to have 1 new committee that we're going to title operations, for lack of a better word, that will cover everything that might come under that description. I'm sure as we move forward, we'll change our committee structure as we see fit to solve the problems that come before us. All right, I have 5 motions, and I'll read each one exactly as written by council, and then I will ask for someone to make a motion to that effect and someone to second it. We can then have a discussion if we need be, and we'll vote on each of these things separately. The first motion, to approve the amendment and restatement of the corporation's Articles of Agreement in the form presented to the members and approved and recommended by the corporation's Board of Trustees. Can I get a motion?
So moved. Second.
And a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The second one, to authorize and direct the Secretary of the Corporation to execute and file with the New Hampshire Secretary of State and the Town Clerk of Littleton, New Hampshire, an affidavit of amendment of the above vote, and to attach thereto the amended and restated Articles of Agreement of the corporation approved by the members. Can I get a motion? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 3, to approve the amendment and restatement of the corporation's bylaws in the form presented to the members and approved and recommended by the corporation's Board of Trustees. Get a motion?
So moved.
And a second? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 4, to authorize and direct the Secretary of the Corporation to file with the New Hampshire Bureau of Charitable Trusts the amended and restated bylaws of the corporation as approved by the members? Motion, second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And finally, that the amendments to the corporation's Articles of Agreement and bylaws will become effective immediately.
Second.
Second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That concludes the report of the Governance Committee. Dr. Sauter, I think you're up next.
Good evening. I'm representing the LRH Charitable Foundation. With the shrinking amount of monies coming in from insurance companies and Medicare, the hospital has three ways of raising funds, and one of them is to ask for donations. Another one is through the operations of the hospital, and another is through investments. The Charitable Foundation has been designated as the fundraising arm of the hospital, and 2013 marks the 10th year of the foundation. The three purposes of the foundation are to raise money, to invest the money, and to spend the money. First of all, we do pretty good at the last one. The raising the money, this year more than 350 individuals donated 300 donations were received either from individuals or businesses, and they were generous. They were sponsored events that they donated to. They volunteered to assist the foundation with fundraising, and we're fortunate to have that many people willing to help the organization. At the end of the year, our investments amounted to $1.14 million. The foundation continues to raise funds for the Century Fund, which was established at the turn of the century, and at present it has $365,000 in it. We have memorial funds and honor funds, which continue to grow. This year, 24 memorial and honor funds were established in memory of or to honor loved ones. Through the direct mail campaigns and memorial and honor funds, we had more than 100 new individuals and businesses joining our support group. We've made a commitment to work with the board of trustees to help raise funds, and part of this effort is going to include a full-time director of development. Susan Durkee is going to come to LRH in February from Plymouth area, and with a full-time director, we hope to grow our planned giving program to provide additional opportunities for donors to support the foundation. We look forward to identifying and working with the donors who may have interest in a planned gift to support the foundation. Secondly, investing the money. This was a very good year for investments. As a matter of fact, one of our funds, the Healed Fund, raised over $50,000 to be put back into the volunteer funds. Finally, spending the money. We do that very well, as I said. We want our donors to see the good work that their support has brought to Littleton Hospital. We don't want to just build up a fund. And this year we had several things. We had the cardiac rehab program, new fitness equipment to increase the offerings to patients who take part in our cardiac rehab program. Yale Medical Library, we had a lead gift to support the LRH's Born to Read and Reach Out and Read Children Literacy Program. The Agnes Norris Birthing Center purchased safe sleep sacks that are given at the time of discharge for the infants born at LRH. The Paramedic Intercept Program was the main beneficiary of the Dr. Moose Golf Tournament, and this year raised $24,000 to support the paramedic program at LRH. The LRH hospice room remodeling had funds provided to provide a more homey hospice room so that patients and their families can have more comfortable stay. The LRH nursing education website was provided with funds to establish a nursing and clinical education web presence that can be used by internal and external visitors to the site seeking education and training opportunities. Newborn hearing screening equipment had a generous donation from New England Wire Technologies, and Littleton was able to purchase state-of-the-art newborn hearing screening equipment for 2013. Bone Builders fitness classes, which includes about 20 people at present, had equipment donated from the foundation to help with its wellness program to help build bones and prevent osteoporosis. Finally, the foundation provided funds for LRH Volunteer Services Program to start iPad lending program for patients and their families. In fact, this program is so popular that the foundation recently approved purchasing additional iPads for our LRH patients. I'd like to take a moment to thank the members of the foundation board, which include Ashley Garrison, Secretary, Dr. Alice Rocky, Dr. Ed Duffy, Gil Vickery, Warren West, Bob Fodder, Gail Clark, Bob Whitney, Tina Bedore, Stephen Truboff, John Starr, and Wayne Rio. Thank you.
Next will be Everett Aldrich, representing the auxiliary.
Good evening. To everything, there is a season. For the Littleton the Healthcare Auxiliary, 2011-2012 was the season for change. What started out as a learning curve accelerated into a learning spike. With Susan moving to Alaska in September and Joy having severe medical issues in March and April, I was, as directed by the bylaws, mandated to step up the auxiliary president. It certainly made for a very demanding spring and summer and a very exciting season for the auxiliary. I'm proud to report that the transition went smoothly, seemingly unnoticed by the general membership, due in part to a very strong board of directors. Everyone took on extra tasks, including that of training me. It was fun and rewarding to see solidarity and teamwork come together toward a common goal. The finances of the auxiliary continue to be strong. Earnings and donations exceed $28,000 and were expended towards such worthwhile projects as the Caravan, emergency room sweatshirts, women's health care conference, student scholarships, HOSA sponsorship, and unrestricted gifts to the hospital, and continuing education through the Connors Library programs. The many projects and fundraising activities netted substantial incomes. Bag Alley, book sales, holiday cookie sales, jewelry sales, the Littleton Hospital Golf Tournament, Mulligans, thank you, the gift shop sales, Tree of Lights, membership dues, and donations, plus interest on accounts, made a total income revenues of $62,086, with expenses being $60,217. Through hard work and some arm twisting, every officer and committee chairman submitted a written report of their respective activities. These reports included guidelines for oversight and organization of each of the many events the auxiliary sponsors. This documentation will ultimately lead to a printed guide of operations for the Littleton Hospital Auxiliary. A committee of particular importance is the Bylaws Committee. Chaired by Joni Perrell, her committee of 6 diverse members took on the task of revising and updating the Littleton Hospital Auxiliary bylaws. Meeting twice a month since January of 2012, working in 3- and 4-hour sessions, they addressed the last updated bylaws of 2006, line by line and word by word. The goal was to remove gender, address current committee needs, and to look to the administration of the auxiliary through current and future technological advances. My sincere thanks to this committee for many long hours of hard work with spectacular results. The Board of Trustees approved our bylaws in May. This committee will continue to work in the development of an operational manual which will provide guidelines for future auxilians to assume chairmanships of an event or committee with advanced knowledge of the who, what, when, and where that is needed. The volunteer program at Littleton Regional Hospital is generally recognized as one of the best in the state, with approximately 230 volunteers contributing over 21,090 hours of service to Littleton Hospital, providing their services from 3 locations throughout the hospital is a tribute to the leadership of Sharon Sunman, Director of Volunteers. Besides coordinating 3 book fairs, a jewelry sale, and Bag Alley leather goods sales as fundraisers for the auxiliary, she also has developed Alternative Therapies Group, which operates 2 days a week. a pet therapy program, a music therapy program utilizing 36 local musicians whose talents add greatly to the well-being and recovery of our patients. Sharon also serves on the State Board of New Hampshire Auxilians, representing the 6 northern tier hospitals of New Hampshire. The Moose Gift Shop continues to be the biggest contributor to the income revenues of the auxiliary. Under the guidance of Maggie Starr, the gift shop provides a service to our patients, their families, as well as the hospital family. The gift shop is open 5 days a week and staffed and merchandised by volunteers, and will soon, and I believe it has, a secondary sales kiosk located in the new medical office building lobby. Maggie manages the staff and buyers as well as the business end of the operation. The auxiliary does have lots of fun events which it is involved in. The Doctor's Day breakfast, the annual ice cream social in conjunction with the annual employee cookout, developing and maintaining the Littleton Hospital Memorial Gardens, at least 2 annual membership meetings, and the very popular garden party. The holiday decorating project, which continues to enhance, which contributes to the enhancement of the Littleton Hospital experience. Each of the events or projects has a hardworking chairperson and committee who spend many long hours behind the scenes to accomplish the goals. Thank you to each of you who volunteered, who has dedicated time and energy, and especially smiles, to their success. Change has certainly prevailed in all aspects of our work. In September of 2012, I was elected the president of the auxiliary, the first man to hold that position in the over 100-year history of the organization. I am humbled and very proud of this honor. As we round the corner on another year, I'm reminded of the writings of favorite author Helen Steiner Rice in a short poem entitled, "The World Needs Friendly Folks Like You." In this troubled world, it's refreshing to find someone who still has the time to be kind, someone who still has the faith to believe that the more you give, the more you receive, someone who's ready by thought, word, or deed to reach out a hand in our hour of need. Looking into the future, I see exciting new things happening. 2012, 2013 will be the season of adventure. With the continued leadership of Kathy Lewis of the membership committee, I'm sure we will grow. Hopefully that growth will include more men. We definitely will need to add them to our membership. We'll be looking into new avenues of fundraising, perhaps, and we will restructure the Tree of Lights project, and taking a serious look at how and where we have invested auxiliary funds. Your ideas and input are essential are an essential part of the adventure and the future of the Littleton Hospital Auxiliary and its continued impact on our hospital and the community. I look forward to working with each and every one of you.
Good evening. As introduced, I'm Dr. Kevin Silva, President of the Medical Staff, Chief of Staff, and soon-to-be outgoing Chief of Staff. I wore a white coat today, and I seldom do wear a white coat, but I think it's an important symbol of the profession. It's a symbol that I think in a lot of ways has been lost because you see so many other people wear white coats. When I was in medical school, I was struck by a particular administrator that I had to meet with. And I remember I went to medical school in Texas, in Galveston. And it's an older school, there's an old historic building, that's where the main administrative office was. And I remember going up the elevator to the top floor, to the area with the beautiful views, and there's this out area that you get kind of received in. It's all dark paneling, leather chairs. You go to the back, all dark paneling, leather chairs. Dark suit, everyone was in a dark suit. Hair perfect, shoes shined, except the one man I was going to meet. And he was one of the administrators. He wore a white coat, physician. He was a general internist as well, Dr. Bernier. And what that showed me was how important it is to keep your wits about you as a doctor as you navigate through administrative tasks. And it's something that I aspire to. So today, we'll talk about the year in review from the medical staff's perspective. As you may know, the medical staff is divided into two groups: physicians, surgeons. The medical services, Chief of Medicine, Dr. Anil Mukherjee, and the surgical services, which is joint chaired by Dr. Sauter and Dr. Rankin. And you can see who each of those services include. The medical services, we've worked on a couple of things. We've worked with the administration on a solution for the cardiac lab. We had some trouble with staffing and threatened closures, and we were able to staff that better. ICU order sheets were streamlined. Factor 7. Factor 7 sounds very ominous. It's an antidote to a particular anticoagulation medication. We're the only hospital in the North Country that has it. And it is a necessary ingredient for reversing this particular medication. We've also improved hospitalist and primary care communication. The way our hospital is working now, most of the primary care physicians do not see their patients in the hospital. We have a hospitalist that manages patients while in the hospital. It's a very good system. The difficulty in the system is communication between the two groups. We've worked hard on helping to facilitate that. We've improved our radiology services. We now have a fixed MRI rather than the mobile MRI, which is still out in the parking lot. Have we sold it yet? Okay. And then we've added to the hospitalist service Dr. Suru, a very nice addition to our hospital service. Now the surgical services, we've worked on that end as well. The surgical suite construction, planning, unplanned closures, there are things that kind of pop up over the course of the year, and it's up to the medical staff to help weigh in and help solve those problems to keep the place, keep the doors open, keep the services running. Endoscopy, prepping, pregnancy test protocol, standardization of anesthesia carts. You can imagine how important that is, that each cart looks the same. In medicine, what's been found is the more standardization you have, generally the better patient outcomes you have. I mean, you also save money, but remember, I'm wearing the white coat. The money is no object. To me, it's make sure the patients are safe. Pre-op, we've done some things there to standardize the pre-op. Flu vaccine, skin prep, history of rheumatoid arthritis, these are important items to be considered prior to surgery. And then there's been some staff-wide projects, and some of these are still in process. CPOE, computerized physician entry and forms. Now in the hospital, when we order things for our patients, up until this year we did it by hand on paper. Papers were faxed to different departments and orders were implemented. The federal government would like us to use a computer physician order entry. It's supposed to allow for better tracking. Hopefully later it'll be less error prone. And there's been a lot of growing pains with that, but it's something the physicians are working with hard. It's something the administration is working with hard as well. And we're doing our best to comply and move this forward. Web stations for physicians, Horizon patient folder. These are all computer applications to help move toward a computer record. Venous thrombolytic prophylaxis. These are some guidelines that Medicare would like to see to help, again, for patient safety. And then, as I mentioned, standardization of equipment and processes. We have some news here. Dr. Howard Mitz, our gastroenterologist, he's on Carter Street. If you need an appointment with him, I'm sure he'll be happy to oblige you. He's set up in his new office. I've toured it. It's a beautiful facility. We've added some new specialties, and this allows us to be more of a referral center to this North Country, a rheumatologist and a pulmonologist. And they've settled in here quite nicely. We've hired specialists for eClinicalWorks. eClinicalWorks is the electronic medical record that the outpatient physicians use. Seems frustrating, doesn't it, that we have different medical records for different areas? That's just the way life is right now. But we've hired a specialist to help guide the physicians through that too. And then the trauma committee, because we are a regional center, we do have a lot of trauma here, was reinstituted. We have several new members now. Dr. Patel, pediatrics, Dr. Suru, our hospitalist, Dr. Green, pulmonology, Dr. Caesar, and Dr. newly hired Dr. Sauver, both in urology. Dr. Peterson in oncology, Dr. Kogan, gastroenterology, Dr. Knight, emergency medicine, and Dr. Bolding, rheumatology. Again, this is helping extend what we're able to provide for our patients up in this area. We also have some new allied health providers, Haley Ireland, Peggy Payette, and Evelyn Hagan. Again, they assist in the reach of what we're able to do for patients. Courtesy staff, many of them work off-site, working as radiologists. And then per diem staff, they fill in as necessary to help cover call, to help cover gaps in what we would like to have a full-time 24/7 availability. We do have some departures. Dr. Jill Bloomberg, Christina Colchia, Dr. Lovejoy, Dr. Daly, Dr. Ripple, and June Rhoda. Not on that list is Dr. Howard. Many of you must know that he died unexpectedly here, and he will be sorely missed. He was a fine doctor here. Locum tenens, again, these are people, physicians who have been able to come in and help fill some of the gaps that we may have had from time to time. And they've made valuable contributions to our family here as well. Something else that we've done at the physician level is look again at core privileges. Now, what are core privileges? When a doctor comes here, say to practice as a cardiologist, the hospital has to tell them what it means to be a cardiologist here. The hospital administration doesn't feel that they're educated in that way to decide what it means to be a cardiologist or a cardiologist in general. So they look to the medical staff. What is it that you believe is proper for this specialty in this area? We've worked hard to try to come up with those privileges and update them. And we've completed several, you can read it, the specialties that we've completed so far, there's several. So in summary, we have some challenges ahead. Something that the medical staff is going to be looking at now is a little bit more in terms of standardization, what we can do to make our patients as healthy as possible, to serve them as well as possible, and also to do it at a price that's as affordable as possible. Thank you.
Good evening again. I'm at this point here to give the Board of Trustees report. First, as outgoing chair, I'd like to thank everyone, administration, medical staff, fellow board members, for the support they've shown me for the last 2 years. I've enjoyed my time as chair. It's been challenging, and I've learned a great deal about healthcare in general and LRH in particular. I hope that I have moved the organization forward a little bit, or helped to, and I hope to support the incoming chair, Steve Truboff, in his efforts to continue to move the organization ahead. And Steve, just for your record, Steve will become chairman at about 6 o'clock this evening. I'd very quickly like to review what the board is supposed to be and do. We're a governance board. Does that mean we run the hospital? No. We set the goals for the hospital. We hire the CEO. We charge him with running the hospital and achieving those goals. We have a fiduciary responsibility to oversee, that's oversee, not direct, operations of the hospital. So we review quality indicators, financial reports, and other data so we have some sense that the hospital's being run appropriately. And we communicate and coordinate with the medical staff and we approve medical staff privileges here to practice medicine here at LRH. The most important single, actually triple, relationship at the hospital is the relationship between the board, the medical staff, and the administration. Very simply put, the administration is supposed to, I'll just say, make the trains run on time, and that's a gross oversimplification. The medical staff controls all the activities that provide clinical services to our patients. And the board is supposed to provide big picture direction to both of those groups, but we need their input in order to do it well. If all three groups are working in tandem, we have an opportunity to move the organization ahead, improve care, and serve our community. If we're not working cooperatively, let's just say our end results will be subpar. That's not to say the doctors won't still provide the best care they know how, but it is to say that they will work harder to achieve the same result. Ultimately, this place exists to provide good outcomes for patients, and working together is the key to LRH being the best it can be. I want to talk for a moment about the future of healthcare, and I'm going to say as I see it, because I'm sure there's some divergent opinions on this. For providers, that's LRH, that's physicians, that's any of the other organizations that provide healthcare services in the community. We face lower payments for the same service. All of us are trying to provide our services more efficiently while achieving better outcomes. Over time, the survivors will figure out how to do that. But there is a limit. There's a point where that won't work. You hear a lot about lack of access to health care. Locally, at least, that doesn't mean that there isn't a doctor who can see you. It does mean that if the doctor can't cover his costs of seeing you, he may choose not to. At the national level, everyone talks about healthcare being 18% of gross domestic product, and that percentage is rising, and that we can't afford that. I agree. But we have a demand problem, and reducing payments to providers and other efficiencies at the provider level are not going to bend the cost curve enough to solve our demand problem. The healthcare industry over the past 50 years has come up with a lot of wonderful ways to treat patients for a variety of conditions. Many of them are expensive. But everyone has come to expect a lot of services. We, and I use that term here to speak of the nation, not of Littleton Regional, can't afford to pay for all the services that people want. And that's our problem. In a free market, supply and demand are supposed to sort of sort each other out after a while, and after a fashion they do. Healthcare is not a free market, and to solve our demand problem, frankly, there's going to have to be rationing. And as I see it, there's three ways that can happen. It can be imposed by a government fiat. It can be imposed through some sort of insurance company fiat. Or it can happen through patients weighing the cost against the benefit and factoring in ability or willingness to pay. This is not something LRH can influence particularly. We will try hard to continue to provide all the medical services we can, whatever the future brings. Ultimately, though, we will have some sort of rationing mechanism. How quickly we, and again I'm speaking of we, the nation, come up with it, will determine how far the country goes down the trail of Argentina or Greece. I challenge all of you to think about how you want that rationing to work. And finally, to follow up last year's report. Fundraising, as Dr. Sauter reported, we've hired a director and we hope to ramp up our fundraising activities. We've renewed our contract with QHR for various management and educational services. We've extended Warren's employment agreement for potentially 10 years. And last year, the board had identified strategic planning process as one of our shortcomings. We've been working to get on top of the issue and have come up with a strategic planning outline. We've identified 5 goals that will guide us in evaluating future plans and performance. Number 1, quality. There's no replacement for high quality in healthcare. LRH is committed to meet 100% of the various, I'll call them minimum standards, but standards that are being promulgated by government agencies like CMS. And for each of those standards, it's our intention to have a better score than any of the other healthcare providers in our area. We'll also work on quality initiatives not mandated, but that influence patient care. The ultimate goal here is superior outcomes for patients, and so we need to look at both what's mandated and what just makes sense. Number 2, client or patient service. Throughout our operations, from the first phone contact to the last billing activity, we will strive to make all interactions with our patients and their families positive, helpful, informative, friendly, and supportive. Marketing and branding. Our brand, Littleton Regional Healthcare, will become a household word synonymous with high quality, great service, and financial success. Number 4 would be growth. We need to continue to grow every year. If we don't continue to grow, I believe we'll die. To achieve growth, we will expand existing practices, we will add new practice areas, we will increase market share, and we will explore affiliations. And finally, financial stability. We need to make money. As someone said to me when I came on this board, no bottom line, no LRH. We don't need a big bottom line, but it needs to be in the black. We need to be able to invest in new equipment and facilities. Our goal of financial stability requires both a healthy operating margin and an increase in capital assets to our charitable foundation. None of these 5 goals are particularly earth-shaking, but together they represent a focused, first-class healthcare organization. Thank you. We'll be followed by the incoming chair and current treasurer, Mr. Truebach.
This is a training program, Mike, so
There we go.
thanks, John. I always like that quote. Most of us that have interaction in the hospital have it on a trip to the emergency room or to see your doctor or have a test or whatever. And I've never heard anybody, I've been in the community almost 40 years, say, I wonder how the hospital's doing financially. Nobody worries about healthcare as a business, and in fact, as John described, part of the board's responsibility is to make sure we are focused on the business and how that business is doing. I want to talk about 6 things tonight. I'd like to talk about gross billing, give you a sense of sort of the scope of our activities. I want to talk about net revenues, or what I call real money, because what you bill and what you get ain't one and the same, as they say. I'm going to show you some numbers about operating margins and how much we actually make out of that before ancillary things, money on investments and those sort of things. I'm going to show you some numbers on patients we serve. Pretty interesting numbers in how we serve them. A little bit about the number of physicians practicing here and staffing levels and how that impacts the community. Let me just say this is a community hospital, not-for-profit, designated so by the IRS. We're a 501c3. And we file a tax return every year. It's called a Form 990. That Form 990 is a matter of public record. Any organization that's in our status files that. You can get on the web, and so you can get excruciating detail if you ever want to see it about everything and anything that relates to the finances of the hospital. There really are no secrets. It's totally transparent. So there's our revenue over the last 5 years. We've gone from $85 million to close to $122 million in actual billing here at the hospital, a very substantial increase. And that's what I call the dream money, and there's the real money. We've gone from $53 million to $71.5 million. And so we've had a 40% growth in real money, and this chart shows you the relationship between real money and dream money. For those of you that were good in your geometry class, if you connect the gray lines with the rust-colored lines, you will notice that the slope of the line for revenues moves up faster than the slope of the line for net revenues. And that's because the spread between what you bill and what you get paid is widening. And that is wherein the squeeze comes in terms of how this business really operates. And that's probably not going to get better. It's probably going to get worse. Part of that's insurance company, and part of that's the government, both state and federal, which represents between 30 and 40% nationwide of all healthcare costs. Here's our operating margin, both in dollars and percentages. You will notice how consistent that is over the 5-year period. If there's a moral in that, this is a very high fixed cost business, I don't know whether we're full tonight or not, but when you're full and everybody's busy, you do better than when you have days when you're not full and busy. Hoteliers always talk about occupancy rates. The fact is, occupancy and utilization are everything. We had a couple good years after 2007. The economy finally caught up to us. We sort of bounced back, and we're bouncing up and down. My guess is the two lower numbers there in the 1.5% to 2% range is probably where we're going to be over the long term. The years where you made 4% and 5% operating margin are probably gone. We're not going to see those again. But to me, the most interesting part of this, if you look at our peers and you look at critical access hospitals across northern New England, all their lines go down below the line, not above the line. This is one of the few critical access hospitals that consistently over the last 5 years has made money. And not-for-profit does not mean let's lose money. Everything you do here, every piece of equipment you buy comes in 5 and 6 and 7-figure sort of cost. And so it's extremely important that we have positive cash flow and make money, and we've been able to do that up to this point. Here's a great chart about number of patients served. We served 107, 108,000. That's individual. This is like web hits, so it could be the same person multiple times. And somebody said to me the other day, why did you guys change your name? And so you got to really study these numbers for a second. The purple, that's clinic, that's physicians. The green is outpatients. The red is emergency. And if you see that little sliver at the bottom, that's our housing business or the hospital. I always say to people, if we could put everybody up at the Hampton Inn and just do the other stuff, this would be a whole lot easier. The reality is the business has changed, and what was inpatient and what really drove hospitals isn't what's driving it today. More and more of our revenue and operations are outpatient and other services, clinical services, and that's also going to stay that way for the foreseeable future. And so we're really a healthcare organization, providing a wide range of services, of which the hospital itself is actually a smaller sliver, depending on how you define what hospitals are. Finally, and I finally said when I was putting this together, I said, well, tell me how many physicians actually work here now? I tried to count it up myself, and then I figured it would be easier to add someone. I should have never asked the question because it's not that simple. There are physicians that work here. There are physicians that are credentialed in practice here. There are teleradiologists, of which there's 20 some odd or more, but there are 126 people credentialed to work here. I don't think the whole hospital together was 126 people when I first came here and you went over on Cottage Street. The fact is, we are growing in the physician practices and the number of people that work here, and that's what grows the revenues of the hospital over time. Finally, I thought you'd like to see this number. We employ 360 people now. We've gone from 340 to 360 over the last 5 years, and so we've had some leveling out of our staff growth. We have about $28.5 million of payroll, depending on which economist you talk to, multiply times 5, and that says that the hospital pours about $150 million a year into the local economy, which is obviously an important driving force for the area. I'd like you to take away 3 messages. We are growing, and as John said, it's absolutely essential that we grow. Grow in the kind of services that we provide, the number of those services that we provide, and we grow as an institution. If we don't grow, we're going to wilt away. 2, we are financially stable. We have worked very hard, and the staff and Warren and the people here, to make this place work financially. And without money talks, and financial stability will serve us in a wide variety of ways, both in the services we're able to provide to people, the quality that we can bring to those services, and our ability to attract people over time. And the third message, if you looked at the margins carefully, this is a very tough business. If you were going to go buy something tomorrow, a hospital would not be #1 on your list. And it's going to get increasingly difficult, as Warren, I'm sure, will talk about in his presentation. So we're in good shape. Thank you very much.
As the North Country's healthcare needs grow, one hospital continues to evolve and meet the patients and our community. Welcome to the new Littleton Regional Healthcare. From maternity, emergency, and ENT services to pediatrics and our new surgical center, we're no longer just a community hospital. We're the single source for comprehensive and passionate care here at home. Littleton Regional Healthcare, where good health begins.
We do have a lot to be proud of. I don't know if I sat there today when I heard about the foundation report, when I heard the auxiliary report, all those projects and everything we're doing, helping our patients. We have a lot to be proud of. Our people, our resources, the communities we serve, the patients who trust us with their care. Littleton Regional Healthcare, where good health begins. We truly have evolved. Think about where we've been and think about evolving from our past. I know I've reflected on this before, but you've heard a lot today about folks talking about change, and I will do the same. So if you think about where we were 100 years ago, our founding fathers were probably struggling about the next day. They've been open for 5 to 6 years. They're probably wondering what the environment's going to bring, if they can continue to support the hospital they birthed. If you think about 10 years ago, we built a new facility. We moved into it. We found ourselves with no cash. We were struggling. We were trying to figure out how we were going to survive, and we did. We evolved. If you think about just 5 years ago, we had challenges with physician turnover. We had challenges with trying to understand information systems because we had just failed in an implementation. We had challenges trying to figure out what we're going to do with our physical space and how we're going to grow. We had a centennial plan that was birthed by our boards, and it was given to me as a new administrator. And I would say to you, look at where we are today, 5 years later. The trend of growth is amazing in this business and will only continue. We have, as Steve has explained, made a major transition from being just a hospital to much, much more than that, a health system, a modern integrated health system. We have, as Dr. Silva explained, really expanded our primary and specialty service capacity and capabilities. We are much, much more than a hospital. Steve explained it best. We are a medical center with primary and specialty services with the component of inpatient beds. Think about what I just said. Think about 10 years ago, we wouldn't have talked that way. Let's try it again. We are a medical clinic with primary and specialty services with the component of inpatients, along with everything else we do around patients on an outpatient basis. We have evolved to be ready for the environment that is coming upon us. We are much more than that. We offer the largest array of healthcare service north of Dartmouth and Concord, east of Burlington and west of Portland. Did you ever think of it that way? That is who we have become. We are the North Country Regional Referral Center, Littleton Regional Healthcare. That is what our mission was, that is what our goal was, and that is what we have positioned to be. This year, as Dr. Silva has explained, we have grown in both our primary and specialty services with physician recruitment. I won't bother to repeat all those names, but we are extremely fortunate to have recruited up to 13 new physicians for our organization. Many of them are here tonight, and I hope you take the opportunity to meet them. We have a great bunch of new physicians on board to augment and supplement all of the great physicians we already had on board. We are a new facility. We've had the fortune, unlike many organizations, to be able to expand our physical plant, as Dr. Silva explained, our surgical suite, MRI, information technology. We've been able to invest in our physicians. There are not many organizations in this country that could talk about the successes they've had this year compared to ours in our physical investments, in our physical space, IT, and physicians. We are more than a hospital, and we have much to be proud of. We've achieved meaningful use in the first phase of the Affordable Care Act, or some of you might know it as Obamacare. That means we will receive millions of dollars back from the federal government for installing our electronic medical records, an achievement that a lot of hospitals in this country have not been able to achieve. We continue to improve patient satisfaction scores and our quality indicators. We continue to focus on the patient experience because that is why we are here. And this is going to be a large focus on our future. When we talk about what is going on nationally, we have to be the best in our quality indicators and our patient satisfaction scores, and we will. That will be our focus. Sorry. So, we keep track of things around here. And this is a board that shows our HCAP scores and how we're improving. And this is here for the public to see, so we're transparent. And you can see we made some major progresses in the last couple of months. Why? Because of our staff. They responded to a challenge like they never have before, like they always do. So, we have a lot to be proud of. And why are we successful? We owe it all to you, the family of LRH. We all have played a role in this success. We have a great team, and we have a great team because we believe in each other. That is what makes us strong. This is the key to our success: transparency and trust. Collaboration, you heard earlier today, communication, and cooperation. Those are what drives us. Those are what drives the LRH family. These key attributes will continue our success. They will have to. Healthcare is beginning, if you want to believe that, but I've been in this game for 25 years and it hasn't stopped evolving. Healthcare is beginning some major changes, an evolution because of healthcare reform. Some would say a revolution. I say it is just the continuation of what we've done for years in and years out. I will tell you, however, that if you think it's been tough the last 5 years, 10 years, or 25 years, the next 5 years are going to be tougher than we've ever seen. They're going to be harder than we've ever had to work. And that I can guarantee. There are many, many challenges ahead. No matter how you want to look at it, there's gray clouds out there. There's headwinds we're going to have to go beyond. We're going to have to sail past. I can't predict the future, but I know it will be different. But I also know we will be here in those 5 and 10 year increments to continue to serve this community. The only thing I can predict is one thing: we will be different and we will evolve into the future. We will not remain stagnant. We can't if we want to survive healthcare. It is predicted that many hospitals in this country won't survive healthcare reform. And the reason why they won't survive healthcare reform is they don't have what we have. Communication, collaboration, cooperation, trust, transparency among all stakeholders. Whether you're a volunteer, a visitor, a board member, a doctor, a patient, we all believe in each other, and we all believe we're doing the right things for our patients, and that is what is going to help us survive. We are in competition like never before. We've got to get our scores up. Just like every other hospital in this country, we have to get our scores up, both in our quality indicators and our patient satisfaction scores, so we can get our fair payments back from the federal government. So we are in dramatic competition. Steve talks about we have to have growth, and so does Mr. Starr. Well, we have to have growth. How are we going to have growth in a region whose population is shrinking, and in a nation whose utilization of health care is driving down further and further? It will never be back to where it was before the Great Recession. We have to compete. We have to make sure we are the best of the best in the region, and therefore the patients will come here because we are the best. That is what we need to do to succeed. So we are in a major competition like never before. So on one hand, we're going to have to collaborate with our peers. On the other hand, we're going to have to compete. And that's the reality of the world. As I mentioned earlier, this next evolution in healthcare will be harder than anything we faced in the past. We will have to evolve ourselves to survive. But we will thrive in this new environment because of who we are. We will thrive in this environment because of how we have prepared ourselves. We will thrive in this environment because of how we position this organization to be a healthcare system and no longer a hospital. And we will thrive in this new environment because of all of you, the family of LRH, working together for this organization's survival. We must continue to work together, staff, board, physicians, community, and volunteers at all times. There will be many, many challenges that will test our resolve as we look forward into the future. But if we continue to believe in each other, we will conquer the challenges ahead. And we must stick together, because only together we will thrive in this brave new world of healthcare reform. I look forward to working on these challenges with you together. Why? Because as I've said in the past with this organization, there has not been one challenge presented to this group of individuals that we have not overcome. And I'm not just talking about getting over the hurdle. I'm talking about sailing past the hurdle. We may not know, as I said to you all the time, we may not know all the answers to the questions, but I know together we will find those answers and make the right decisions to drive this organization forward. It has been a pleasure to work with this organization over 6 years now, well almost, but who's counting? And I look forward to many, many more. As Mr. Starr has indicated, I hope to be here for a while, because we do have fun most days. For the strong, the future is bright. For the organizations that have collaboration among stakeholders as their guiding principles, the future is bright. We will be challenged by our local hospitals. We will be challenged by reduced payments, as you've heard earlier, by the government and by insurance companies. We will be challenged with more and more regulations. But we will prevail, and we will thrive in this new environment because of all of you. We have a lot to be proud of. LRH. So as I conclude, I know we should take a brief moment to think about all of our volunteers and family members that have passed away this year, and also to reflect on Dr. Howard, our friend, our colleague, who has served this community for over 20 years. He was one of the cornerstones that have helped this hospital succeed and build this new facility, and he will be sorely missed. Dr. Howard and everybody else who has passed from our family, we sorely miss you. And there's certainly not a day that goes by we don't think about him. So in conclusion, I need to reflect on a couple folks and their years of service here. First, I'd like to reflect on Dr. Silva for his year as medical staff president. As Dr. Silva and I only know, we have had many, many good discussions about healthcare, about patients, about where this hospital is going. I would suggest to you that not on all occasions we agreed. I would suggest to you, however, that we built a trust and a communication mechanism and a cooperation mechanism that allowed us to continue to work together even if we didn't agree. And I would also suggest to you that we've built a respect for each other's opinion and know where we stand on issues, and we can go forward with trust to help this organization continue to move forward. Dr. Silva, I thank you for your years of service. And you get one of our chairs. Thank you, sir.
I've always wanted a seat at the table, and now I can bring my own.
As Mr. Starr indicated, we have 3 board members coming off the board. Our bylaws allow for 3-year terms. And this year, we have Dr. Duffy, Dr. Gil Vickery, and Dr. Wolcott coming off the board, as you've heard earlier. For Dr. Wolcott, he brought to the table 35 years of working in this community. He brought to the table the knowledge of being in primary care and solo practice and private practice. He brought to the table the knowledge of working with Amanuensis, our partners at the FQHC, and he brought to the table of a group that was advanced learners of electronic medical records. So he always brought something valuable to the table. And if you know Charlie, you will know he's a man of few words, but when he speaks, it's important, and we listen. I thank you for your 9 years of service, sir. And then there's Dr. Duffy and Gil Vickery. The advantage I had with working with those 2 individuals is they were both chairman of the board. Dr. Duffy for my first 2 years here, and Gil for my next 2 years here. So they really provided a very great foundation for me to understand the community, the hospital, the culture, the history, helped me understand the board, the physicians, and it was a great way for me to try to be as successful as possible in my early years here. The both of them will be missed on the board because they both lended great perspectives, each different perspectives of how we can better serve our patients. Dr. Duffy is not here because he was dragged away to a celebration for his 10th anniversary, and we forgive him for that. And Gil is. So Gil, thank you for your time, sir. We also have a chair for Gil, of course. And I forgot to mention, for whatever reason, Charlie decided he wanted a rocket chair. Now, I don't know what message that is. And lastly, I'd like to thank Mr. Starr for 2 years of leadership. The relationship you establish with the board chair, where I sit, is phenomenal. It's a partnership. It's a coming together of minds with 2 different perspectives. It's an ability to help drive an organization through a partnership that is beyond any. Mr. Starr came to us, or I should say, the first time I met Mr. Starr was in Chicago, probably 2 to 3 weeks into my job, or I'm not even sure if I even started yet. But there was a trustee leadership conference. 2 years after that, Mr. Starr gets elevated into the executive roles here. And 2 years after that, 4 years into his tenure on the board, he is board chair. Now, for those of you who don't necessarily know this business, there's an awful lot to learn. But Mr. Starr was an unbelievable student, absorbing any information he could get about healthcare, going to any seminars, books, magazines. He was the first one to send back notes about conferences we went to share with the board or to share with me, to help provide strategic direction or thoughts on things that we should be thinking about. And it was a great relationship and a great partnership. And it's been a great 2 years. And Mr. Starr, I thank you sincerely for your leadership and time. No chair for Mr. Starr, because he's got 3 more years. So with that, I will turn it over to all of you if you have any questions about what's going on at your regional hospital, regional healthcare system. See, I have times to forget too. Don't be bashful. Fair enough. That concludes our business meeting today. We can get on to breaking bread and sharing times with each other and having a great celebration for our 106th annual meeting. And I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us. Thank you and have a great night. And we're going to have another good year next year. Thank you.